right, Zig coming in on the top. Today on the show, we have Stéphane Schück of the Salt Collective. Stéphane is a French guitarist and songwriter, and the Salt Collective is his international collaborative project. But Schück doesn't just work with anyone. He makes the Dream Team Supreme, including Mike Mills of R.E.M., Lynn Blakey of Trace Chicas and Let's Active, Aimee Mann, Chris Stamey, who's been on the show, Andy Partridge of XTC, Matthew Caws of Not a Surf, Jason Falkner of Jellyfish and the Greys, Mitch Easter of Let's Active, and Django Haskins, who's also been on the show. The Salt Collective is an incredible gathering of artists from all over the world. It's one thing to get an artist from the States, right, to play with you or do something with you whilst being in the States, but being international, it's a whole other feat. Now, Jacques had a previous record with some of these members. They also had Matthew Sweet on a track from their previous record, and that was all done via file sharing and Zoom and, et cetera, in the 2020s. But this was all done in person. That's a whole other level of commitment, and it also speaks highly of his songwriting that all these heavy hitters want to work with him. And the album does not shy from that. The album is called A Brief History of Blindness. It's an incredible work of art. I highly recommend you guys check it out. It's available on all the streaming platforms, and if you go to the Salt Collective, you can hit their website, their official website, and get a copy of it there. We are going to jump into this conversation, but right before we do, if you can like, rate, review, subscribe to the podcast on any of the podcast platforms, it helps me keep talking to cool guests like Schück and sharing their insights with you. So without further ado, this is my conversation. Awesome. Yeah. Well, this album's incredible. Both these Salt Collective records are insane, and like in the best way. And the lineup you have on them it's incredible. Like, so I want to get into it. I want to get to these records, but I want to kind of trace a little bit of your music history. So when did you start? When did like guitar become your mode of expression?
It's a very long story, and I think it's a really beautiful story, the Salt Collective story, because as you're a musician, you will perfectly understand me because I'm living a dream, since 5 years. I'm playing with my idols, I'm playing with the guys that I was listening to when I was a teenager. Playing with all these guys is something really amazing when you're a musician, So it's a very long story. First, you have to know I'm French. Maybe you can hear this with my accent. I'm based in Paris, and I grew up in Normandy. And so I was very close to England, because in Normandy, we catch the English radio, so we listen a lot to English music. And I guess that the main point was back in the 90s, where I met Scott Miller. Maybe you know this guy. He was the frontman of Game Theory and Loud Family, a band in San Francisco. I connected with him, and I started playing music from this point,
With I was going to bring up Game Theory. So when you met Scott, you were already playing guitar? You were able to play, or did you start around that time?
Yes, I started before this, and my first instrument was drums. I used to be a drummer. Then I played in bands in France where I was a drummer. Then I moved to bass, and then finally I moved to guitars. And now I'm stabilized on guitar. I'm playing only guitars, but it means that I understand all the feelings of a drummer and a bass player, so it's kind of easy communication with the other musician. And it's very, very, very interesting. But I'm playing guitar since a long time now. And maybe you know, or maybe you don't know, but I'm not a professional musician. My first life, I'm a medical doctor. So that's why I was interested in what you are doing with the kids, playing music with them. And so I was a medical doctor. I'm still a medical doctor, and music is a big part of my life. It's kind of second life. in music.
Yeah, I went to Cleveland State and I studied music therapy. And that's ultimately what I got my degree in, which is a kind of a crossover of the two. But I mean, so I wanted to ask you, what is the, like, I guess, like, and it can be, and I'm sure it is in many facets, but the similarities of being a musician and a physician.
Yes. I mean, it's not so far away as both of them, because when you're a physician, of course, you have to take care of other people. It's kind of projection of yourself into other. The other person is very important. And in music, it's kind of the same feeling, because when you create a piece of music, you create this for people. After they like it or they don't like it, that's not the question, but it's the same projection. You create something for the other, and it always been, the same thing I felt, and I still feel in medicine and playing music.
Very cool. It's an interesting, like, kind of like, and just like even the skill set to kind of develop, like, how to express yourself musically. I gotta imagine, like when you're looking at a patient in some sort, you're connecting these dots of, like, what can possibly be going on, right? What the key of the situation is the through line. I would, like, kind of, like, from afar be able to, like, that kind of connectiveness between, like, big ideas and, like, kind of big signs. I'd imagine that skill set falls together. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact is that music has some effect on the brain, in a deep cortex into the brain, because when you like a music, and you're a musician, I know you're a music lover, when you hear a song that you like a lot, it highlights some words into your brain, and it's kind of a dopamine effect. It's just like the music is activating something in your brain, deep inside your brain, and this feeling is, it because you feel it every day, and it's the same for me and for a lot of people. And I've been always fascinated by this effect, the music making something so good for you that your brain is just, highlight by the music.
It's so cool, man. It's so cool. With so kind of bouncing back. So when did, like, Salt, before Salt Collective, become?
Yeah, exact. In fact, Salt was a power trio here in France. That was me playing guitars and two other guys that are still in the collective. It was Fred Quentin on bass and Benoît Lautridou on drums. We are playing together since the 80s, so you can imagine it's a long time playing together. And after I met Scott Miller, Scott came in France for producing us. At the time, it was this collective, but it was not the collective, it was only Salt. It was a power trio. And then I connect with Chris Stamey, and I will tell you the story behind this. And then we decided to become a collective, because it's a collaboration on all situation. I'm writing the music, and we are proposing the music to different singers, and they have totally freedom, of doing what they want with the music and making their own vocal lines and writing their own lyrics. So it's kind of constant collaboration. So at the beginning, we were only 3 people, and now, as you can see on the collective,
it's like, to be able to work with, like, the musicians you are with the caliber, you're working with legends, you know what I mean? Like, and, like, did you guys, when you started playing, were you?
Yes.
Did you grow up like listening to Chris Stamey and, like, Matthew Sweet and Television and, like, R.E.M?
Of course. Of course. I grew up with them, and the story is just incredible. When I was 13 years old, in France, I bought the DB's album, which was Repercussion. It was back to the early 80s. I was only 13 years old, and this LP blowing my mind out, And I'm saying to myself at the time, I want to play music because I want to write songs like the DB's into this album, And I have one song which is maybe in my top 5 for sure, maybe in my top 2 best song ever, which is Happenstance, that you can find on the Repercussion album. And then 2 years ago, I played it live with Chris Stamey on stage. It was kind of really, really, really crazy situation. So yes, I grew up with them, and now I'm close to Chris Stamey. We have a wonderful collaboration together on this Jan Holder, the best player from the DBs, and with all these people. It's crazy. And it's like living a dream, it's a fun dream. I'm playing with all these guys. And even, Matthew Caws from Nada Surf, I saw them in France for their first gig back in the 90s. I was in the crowd, and saying, wow, these guys are going to make really, really great music. And 30 years after, I'm playing with no mental health. You have to keep cool.
That's so cool. That's so cool. I mean, and I think it just speaks to, like, with all these guys you're working with, like, not only are they, like, these incredible musicians, but they're also, like, incredibly kind people, incredibly like inspired people that want to work and do new things and work with new people. And there's a lot of people who meet their heroes and don't get that same reaction. They get the opposite. So it's like, it's got to be kind of reassuring too, to be like, oh man, I fell for the right inspiration. You know what I mean? Like, I fell for the right guys with the right music.
Exactly. And it's something really unique to play with your heroes, but you have to take a step back, and saying, it's not who I just have to be focused on music and playing with these guys. And you're right, humble. I don't know if there are some legends, and they are so sweet and kind with you. It's amazing because they are taking care of you. And in fact, it's kind of situations that is really exciting because it's easy to work with them. You are not paralyzed and saying, "Oh my God, I'm playing with them. Oh my God, I'm playing with them." It's kind of natural, and it was very surprising for me because it was easy, and we immediately have this feeling. I think it's because all of us, and we are music lovers, and music is a language. And we have this, when you have the same culture, the same references, this language is really easy. You put in the same room people who really love doing something together, and magic happens.
Yeah. Like, and kind of like the dive in a little bit with it, because Chris, being producing and having like a big, like, also being on both the last record and this current record, he's got a wide range of just like vocabulary. I had the privilege to talk with Chris a few months ago with his new release, and like he's one of these guys that like has this huge like music like just flowing through him. So like when you guys are working on a tune, right? Because from what I understand, the last record was just tracks being sent, but this current record, you guys were in person, right?
Exactly. We were in the same studio at Mitch Easter studio. Mitch Easter, another legend. I was a huge fan of Let's Active, and we were into his studio, Fidelitorium studio in North Carolina, and we play live in the studio. We have a band. There was Rob Ladd on the drums, Jen Holder on bass, Wes Lachot on keyboards, Mitch Easter on guitars. I was on guitar too, and Chris was at the production, and we play live into the studio. It's an incredible experience because we are very close, so we can have eye contact, and we are playing, and of course you can see it on the records, but I was jumping everywhere with my guitar.
I mean, I think you can feel that. It's a rockin' record, man. Like, these parts are tight. It's they're really like complicated like pieces, each song. Like, going through like multiple listens to get ready to chat with you, I was like, there's a lot going on each one of these tunes. And like knowing that Chris was involved, like that's, yeah, I know he's got like a deep understanding of sonic layers and such, but like when you guys were, like, I guess, what was the difference between like kind of like Chris's production style via sending tracks and in person?
In fact, we have a very, I think, unique way of collaboration, because I'm writing the songs at the beginning, so I used to have a lot of chords change into one song. Each song, maybe I have 14 or 15 different chords into the song. So it's kind of complicated song at the beginning. And Chris has this vision of how we could manage the structuration of the song. It's not only verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge. And we are trying a lot of different, structuration. By example, the song which is Cloud to Cloud with Matthew Caws, I think that we have 15 versions of the song. We are working very hard to get the right structuration, and then after we send the music to the singer, and the singer add his own vocal part and his own lyrics with total freedom. We don't even give an indication. It's just the singer with a piece of music, and we're waiting for what happened. And in this case, in the Soul Collective, miracle happens all the time on all the songs, and sometimes it's very surprising because I have something in mind, and then the singer and Chris making something different from what I have imagined before, and the song's getting to one direction to nearly the opposite direction. And when you're a musician, it's really a great thing, because you are surprising and saying, "Oh my God, I think it was a punk, song, and it turns like a Broadway song." It's totally crazy, and it's really interesting to work this way.
Yeah, it's so I relate to that. Like my band, I play in a band called C Level Letter C Dash, and we've been working on a kind of a similar project where, in an adjacent way, where we have like this whole concept record, and we have all these featured acts and singers and musicians on all these tracks. And one thing I've learned from the process of doing that is like, you send someone the track and you kind of pitch an idea, and like, even if you pitch an idea, usually they cook up something completely opposite. And a lot of times it's like way cooler, just like you're saying, like you're taken by surprise. So like with this record, with A Brief History of Blindness, what track like had that, I guess, that to the greatest effect? Like which vocal performance or instrumental performance did you like give to someone and get something completely left field that made the song even better for you?
Exactly. I used to be in some bands with, some very egomaniac people. The guy who is writing the song saying, "You're gonna play this, and this," and there's no way to move, from the line he has decided. But for me, music, is collaboration. I mean, when you're doing music totally alone, it's only your vision. So it could be cool for some people, but in my situation, playing music here in my studio, I like that. But the most exciting part is to give your part to the other member of the collective, and they will bring some layers, some things, and as you say, sometimes you are taken by surprise, and I think this is the way for making music, which is the more convenient for me, and I think for a lot of musicians, because music, once again, is collaboration between people and is a language between people. So if you are alone to speak with yourself, not so good.
Yeah. Was it one I guess one feature? I have a bunch of questions with working with these amazing cast of people you have, but going back to the life, can you tell me what it was like working with Richard Lloyd? Because my band, we just opened up for Richard Lloyd last month in Cleveland, Ohio, and
Whoa.
Yeah, it was so cool. Yeah, it was such a cool and I love that he's out there and he's still out there killing it and ripping it, and it was really cool. It was a really magic night because television has this weight that they carry, especially in Cleveland, because that was one of their first places they played out of New York, and Richard has done a lot of collaborations with some of the staple musicians from Cleveland, and they all were there that night, and it was a really cool, special night. So anyway, what was it like working with Richard?
Firstly, it was totally crazy for me, because I grew up with television records, and I think I was really going on guitars because of television. And because of the DBs too, but television is so huge in my mind. And it was Chris who said, on this song, maybe we could have Richard Lloyd. And so it was a song with Juliana Hatfield, which was a really rock song, rough, with a lot of distortion and, quick changing chords and F sharp minor, with D major. I really love this change chord. He did tons of things. And at the end, he's playing only two bars. The solo he performed on this guitar is just, amazing. It's kind of a resume of rock and roll into, 12 beats. And this solo is so amazing. The first time I listened to it in my headphone, when Chris said, we got something from Richard, and I listened to this, I was totally blown out, Say, but how can playing this? It's exactly what is needed there. Not a single note is too much. It's perfection, and it's something really, really, really amazing. Since of course I listen to the song a lot when we are working on, and after you move to the next album, so you listen less to the one. But each time I heard this part of Richard, it's kind of magical moment, So I was totally blown out by this.
That's it's well, I totally relate to that too. It's when you're mixing it and you're editing it and everything, you're so in the tunnel vision of that track. And I think personally, I find if I can listen to it months or weeks or days later and be okay, it still holds up. I'm all right. You know what I mean? It's got to pass that time test, any song you record. It's okay, no, it's still good. It's still good. But thank
you so much. You're making my day.
But that's both these records are so incredible. And having some experience with working with people like that are have their own schedules and have their own like careers they're running. It can be a really tedious thing to make all the planets align and get the take together for them to send the take in. So for this new record, when you got everyone in one room, I'm like, wow, that's a next level challenge. Was that like kind of all through like, I mean, it sounds like Chris was kind of helping out with a lot of the wrangling of everyone, but I don't know if that's true or not. How did just to get everyone in the studio on that day? I mean, I know certain people came in on different days, but like for the bulk of it, was that more of a challenge to get than the actual music?
Yes, it was a challenge. But, we spent 4 days in the studio, 4 days and 4 nights, in fact. So it's a long time, and I mean, these musicians are so incredible. So it was kind of, I was worried about the fact, that we're going to learn the song, to learn to play together, and the sound, and we make the first, Rob Ladd take his stick, say 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're playing, and nearly the first track was a good one. It's really surprising me. They are so good that you're already in the song. Everything seemed perfect. And I remember I was playing guitar and I was looking at everybody, saying, "Wow, you're too good." And so I make mistakes, so we have to go on. But it was really, really interesting to have all these people, and I hope it will arrive again, because when you're a musician, this feeling, and this feeling is unique. Playing together, recording together with this live energy, it's amazing.
There is no other feeling like it. And like, oh gosh, I'm trying to think I'm forgetting the neurochemical. There's this neurochemical when you sing together that's a release. Oxytocin, I think it is, that comes out in other circumstances, like when there's like a family bond or love, and but it also comes out when people sing together, and I would imagine play together as well.
Your brain is making what we call endorphin. The word is endorphin. It's kind of little molecule in your brain that you feel good with, and when you are playing like this, your brain is making a lot of endorphin.
It's so cool. So kind of dive into the concept of the record, like A Brief History of Blindness. I'm like, that's a title, man. That just by itself holds weight. This was inspired by the Eclipse, right?
The song from Lynn Blakey and Mike Mills was inspired by the Eclipse, but it's not the true story. The true story of the title is that, I have another personal god, which is Andy Partridge, and we also have Andy Partridge on the album, and he has this very crazy song which was called A Brief History of Rock and Roll. It's kind of 30 seconds of music. It was on one of his Fuzzy Warble series when he released all his demos. And there was this little song which was a brief history of rock and roll. And this song makes me laugh, because it's trying to resume all the rock and roll into 30 seconds. So if you listen to the 30 seconds, you get a psychobilly riff, and then you get a very strong power chord with a lot of distortion, and then something it's totally crazy. And so I really love this notion of a brief history. And after, I want to mix it with a medical concept, because as I'm a physician and a musician, and the word blindness come to me because it's kind of optimistic way, because as you know, the world is getting down in a lot of aspects, and I like to think that it's a brief history of blindness, and that we're going to be cool and great again, after this darkness. So A Brief History of Blindness is about this, about the way it will be better after. It was just a brief history of blindness. This is the concept.
That's beautiful. And like, I'm hoping that's the ultimate outcome of everything as well. Like,
we are all hoping this.
That's like, because like, yeah, that title just holds this weight. One other song I wanted to I have a couple questions about specific songs. One of which, you worked with Django. I'm trying to remember the title. The Quickening Sky. Now how did you meet Django? Like, his project, I talked with him a while too with his last release, and like, that's an incredible group, but like, it's also a very specific niche. So how'd you come across him?
In fact, it was when I wrote this song, I have something in mind that was kind of David Bowie meet the Pink Floyd, meet the Aliens, meet something psychedelic, but something strong and with a dramatic progression of the song. It begins very slow, and then there was some tension, some wheelies and some tension, and then you have this break with Faith Jones making some vocalize, very Pink Floyd in this part. And I have a deep discussion with Chris about this song because I really love this one. And we say maybe Matthew will sound great, and then maybe Jason Falkner, but we have it on another song. And Django came to Chris and saying, I'm sure he will do something that will really fit what you are feeling on this song, and that the fact that his vocal on this song is just perfect. It's a perfect fit on the music. And I'm happy you talking about this song because I like it a lot. And in the first demo version, the song was 15 minutes long. Because at the end there was kind of catharsis, with a wall of sound and everything I can put on the. There was 12 strings. There was 4 guitars.
God, that was wall.
Yes, and I want to recreate this into the studio. And so with the band, I told to them we need to have something totally crazy, and we recorded maybe 20 minutes with no stop, and unfortunately we were not able to do something with, but that was the idea of the song, and it was supposed to be the last song on the album, but after we wrote the other song with Chris and Aimee Mann, and so it's not the last song, but that's the story of the song.
That's cool. That's beautiful. It's a beautiful tune. And like, and so I guess like when it comes to like cutting, do you tend to write longer and more and then it gets cut down? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Because it was not reasonable to have a 15-minute song,
Yeah, I mean, I mean, you could, but like Django, like he's such a cool cat, man. Like, and I agree, his vocals, like, it's each vocalist you have on all these different tracks, like, regardless that it's a different person with like a whole different sound, you guys do an incredible job of making it feel like a fluent through production and band. Like, it almost like if I didn't read any of the liner notes and if I wasn't aware of anyone, like if I stepped back in time and completely had a deaf ear to like this world of like of music and just listened to the record by itself, I don't know if I would be able to like really like tell. I mean, I could tell it'd be different people singing, but I would think it'd be different members of the band because it all sounds together. Like, and I think that's an incredible feat to have all these very unique voices, but also your own unique voice and be able to blend it together in a way that it comes off as like this really cool, like, expression that you're trying to put out there with all these different like flavors that are really bold from other places.
Yes, thank you. It's very kind of you to say that. I take it like a really great compliment because we try to have this coherence, with all the songs, and as you say, with each song has different singer. But I think it's a work of production of Chris and all the layers that I add after the basic tracking into the studio. When I was in my studio here, just behind, it's a very little, home studio here in Paris. I always add some very little details, and I'm sure that as a musician you can hear them on the tracks, and on all the tracks. I think it's the same philosophy and the same little things, that. And Chris was really encouraged me to do this and saying, you have to do your little tweaks on all the songs, and maybe that's why there's kind of coherence, and sometimes it's also because I'm not so good at guitar. I sometimes playing always the same things or the same weird position, of chords, of voicing with not really usual chords. And you have this on all the songs. And then Chris made this blending with the fundamental tracks and all the little layers that we had. And of course, after the working production of Chris is amazing. But it's a lot of work, because Chris is kind of perfectionist. So sometimes he send you, two versions and saying, listen to this one. It's totally different. And when you listen to it, sometimes you think, but it's the same. But no, it's not the same. It's just tweaking very, very precise things. And at the end, the song is sounding so well. And when you're a musician, when you have this overall sounding, you're just a happy man.
Yeah, it's so it's so interesting too, because there's so many little minute things you can totally go down the tunnel vision for days, and when you come back up, it's still, if you didn't know you turned that knob, you wouldn't have heard it, because I totally relate to that. Where should the bass be more up? This is up 2 decibels. Can you feel it? No.
Yes.
But then there's sometimes when you turn that bass up, you hear it louder, you know what I mean? So that I admire working with the person that is that perfectionist, and I personally like it when I'm kind of encouraged to keep getting it tighter or whatever the part may be. That's I mean, I know it's different. This is kind of Chris is sending you a different mix of this, and each one's looking at different things. And when you're removed from it and you're just putting on the headphones or whatever, or putting them on the speakers and just doing, you don't necessarily pay attention to it. And even I think the general population of music listeners miss a lot of little details that, I mean, how many personally,
yes,
there's
of course.
there's so many records I go back and listen to them. I've never heard that shaker part or that backup harmony. Wow, how cool is that?
Exactly. Yeah, and sometimes some very basic things. I remember back to the 80s, New Year's Day from U2. I mean, it's everybody knows this song. And at one point, I realized that there was a shaker, and I never heard it. And I said, but there is a shaker here. How can I never heard it? As there is a big shaker. And I think it's so part of the song, that you can't hear it, but if it makes the song. So yes, I perfectly understand this.
It's so funny too, because all those things you feel as a listener without knowing, but it's it's wild. It's a cool It's a cool field to be in, like just to see it all come together. But to kind of go back, I had one more question with, which track was it? I'm going to look at the name because I don't want to get it wrong. Going to the fourth song, You Swallowed the Sun. Can you tell me kind of about how that one came together? Because like listening through, every time I would get to that one, I'm like, this is sick. This is the track.
Yeah, I love this track, and this is very, very, very a strong symbol because it's a collaboration between Chris Stamey and Andy Partridge. And Chris knew that I was a huge fan of Andy Partridge, and he told me, but maybe we can ask Andy. And I said, you know him? Yes, I know him. Maybe he will answer to me. I will try. And so he wrote an email to Andy, and Andy was supposed also to work on the previous album, the live album, but it didn't happen for whatever the reasons. And then for this one, I pushed Chris to have this collaboration with Andy Partridge, and they're making the music together, and Andy wrote the lyrics, and Chris wrote these songs. I didn't write anything on this song. I'm only playing this loud guitar. And so we have this construction together, but I hope there will be other collaboration between them, because as I told you, they are my two personal gods. And I think if they are making something together, it will be totally amazing. And I Swallowed the Sun is the first example of the collaboration. And I'm very proud to be at the origin of this collaboration. So, and after we worked a lot on the song, saying we need some trumpets and we need some chords, and there was a version with very light guitars. And I said to Chris, we need heavy guitar. I love heavy guitar. I love distortion. I have tons of pedals here just behind me, distortion. I can't live without distortion. I put distortion everywhere. I'm a huge fan. And I said to Chris, we need to have this loud guitar. And he said, maybe. And then after 2, 3, 4 versions, he said, I will follow your instinct and I will put this heavy guitar on. And this is on the final version.
Wow, it's such an incredible record, and like it's super deep and impactful. Like just there's so much into it that you can dig into. Just sonically, there's like lyrically, and like the message runs deep. There's so many different ways you can look at like what you guys put out there. I really appreciate your time. I got one more question. Can you tell me about working with Mike Mills? Like as far as guitar goes?
Yes, with Mike Mills, it's another incredible story. When I wrote the song, I have in mind Lynn Blakey because we already worked together. And when I have the chords and the overall feeling, it was really kind of jungle rock feeling and Athens feeling. It was, and I said to myself, it's R.E.M. family. So I asked Lynn, and Lynn put out with this wonderful lyrics and vocals, and at the beginning there was only Lynn on the song, and I said to Chris, but maybe it sounds really like an R.E.M. song, and as I know that Chris was playing with Mike Mills, in the Big Star tribute since so many years, and Chris asked Mike to listen to the song, and of course he was very close to Lynn Blakey at the time, and so he accepted to sing on it. And I remember the first time I put my headphone and listened to the tracks of Mike with Lynn, I said, wow, there is really this, this feelings, this R.E.M. feelings into this. I'm so happy with this, So it's kind of magical with working with Chris. I have another example on the album. We also have Kimberly Rue on one song, and when I wrote the song, I said to Chris, "It's funny. This part sounds like Katrina and the Waves." And he said, "Do you want me to ask to Kimberly Rue to play on the song?" I said, "Yes, yeah." And it happens like this, So this is crazy.
How
totally crazy.
So with working with Chris, like how has that like affected how you write songs? Like going from this from Life to this record, like knowing that there's like this kind of potential for like other people to add their voices to it. Has that changed how you wrote? And like, even with this current experience, like with tracks you're maybe in the process of writing for the next project, or just from in between working on this one, has working with Chris and just like kind of his like reach and his kind of like philosophy of songwriting like changed how you write?
Yes, I think that now we have a methodology of working together. And I change a little because, of course, at the beginning, I'm writing with my guitars, sometimes on piano, but mostly on guitars. And of course, I have some vocal ideas. When you have the chords, you think la 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 la. You have something, but I stop myself and only concentrate on the chords, the changing chords, and sometimes there is a chord that is only here for 2 bars, for 1 beat, and then the same chord doesn't appear. So I'm really focused on this. And it changed my way of writing, because now I'm not thinking at all about the melody and the vocal line, but only, the overall chord, the overall tonality of the song. And it's really interesting to work like this, And then I send to Chris the pieces of song, and Chris is in charge of writing sometimes some melodies, or we are writing directly to the singer without no indication. And the funny thing is that sometimes, of course, I have my vocal lines, but I didn't put them on the song. And sometimes there is some discrepancy, of course, but sometimes there is something close to what I've imagined. And of course, it's because we have the same reference, we have the same feelings on things, so sometimes it happens. But it's very comfortable for me, to concentrate only on the music part, and not on the vocal part.
Yeah. And I guess one final question, with working with like this like collaborative group, like what are some lessons, I guess, or just like you've learned to be able to do that? Because I feel like there's a lot of musicians that are, like how you said earlier, like kind of in their own ego, that has to be this way.
Exactly.
So I guess from working with all this and kind of putting your soul out and giving it to other people to mold, what are some, like, I guess for people that would like to be more collaborative and do a project like this, what are some like tips or lessons you can point for someone in that direction?
I think that the main point is that it's not a traditional band, and so you don't have all this ego question. There is no ego at all in this band and in this collective. I mean, I write tons of guitar parts, and you're also a guitarist. So you know that sometimes cutting one guitar you have recorded is painful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sometimes it is, but you always have to think, is it good for the song or not? And I have tons of parts that are in the trash, because we didn't keep them for the song, and it's not an issue at all, And everybody in this project is in this kind of mood, and we are only here for the pleasure of playing music. We don't have. I mean, everybody has his career. It's not a question to be famous. It's not a question to. Of course, if we could sell records, we will be happy. But that's not the point. The point is to have pleasure together, playing the music that we love together, and having this kind of family feeling. With all playing the thing we like, and that's just the point. It's only pleasure. And if there is no pleasure, let's stop it and doing other things. Life is big, but I will say only pleasure.
I think that's well said. Well, Stéphane, thank you very much for your time and for your insight. This has been a pleasure to talk with you. The
Thank
new
you.
record's incredible, and the previous records were equally as incredible. So I'm looking forward to this getting some notice and hearing whatever you guys cook up next. Thank you, my friend.
Yes, thanks a lot. It was a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you.
Yo, Spike Spiegel here. You just listened to Zig of the Gig podcast. Keep riding the bebop. See you, Space Cowboy. Bang.